This is an article that came out in The Atlantic, and the Sackler family, the makers of Oxycontin and other drugs like oxycodone, hydrocodone, they are the creators of that drug, and they were the owners of Purdue Pharma. Okay, Purdue, that's what they owned. Well, they're holding themselves not guilty, y'all. They said they're not guilty for the opioid plague, and they didn't make no money off of Oxycontin, and they don't know what people are talking about there. They didn't do nothing, y'all. They didn't do nothing. The family trying to escape blame for the opioid plague. Yes, they are. Relatives of the makers of Oxycontin claim they have never benefited from money tied to the painkiller. A court document suggests otherwise. I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing. Much as the role of the addictive multi-billion-dollar painkiller Oxycontin in the opioid plague has stirred controversy and rancor nationwide, so it has divided members of the wealthy Sackler family, some of whom owned the company that makes the drug. In recent months, as protesters have begun pressuring the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York and other cultural institutions to spur. So what they're telling these institutions are do not make any donations to the Sackler family. So they are being blocked from receiving donations. One branch of the family moved aggressively to distance itself from Oxycontin and its manufacturer, Purdue Pharma. How do you distance yourself from a drug you created and a pharmaceutical company you owned at one time? How do you distance yourself? I believe they still own it, but they're trying to distance themselves. I don't know how you do that when every damn thing is pointing to you. The widow and one daughter of Arthur Sackler, who owned a related Purdue company with his two brothers, maintain that none of his heirs have profited from sales of the drug, which we know you got to be dumb as a bag of rocks to believe that. The daughter, Elizabeth Sackler, told New York Times in a January that Purdue Pharma involvement in the opioid plague was morally abhorrent to me. Well, I guess it's just going to have to be that way. Your family is responsible for the drug. Y'all made the drug. Arthur died 8 years before Oxycontin hit the marketplace. His widow, Jillian Sackler, and Elizabeth, who is Jillian's stepdaughter, are represented by separate public relation firms and have successfully won clarification and corrections from the media outlet for suggesting that sales of the potent opioid enrich Arthur Sackler or his family. But it did. It did. What would be the purpose of creating a drug and you don't make any money off of the drug? That doesn't make any common sense. But an obscure court document sheds a different light on family history and on the campaign by Arthur's relatives to preserve their image and legacy. It shows that the Purdue family of companies made nearly 20 million payments to the estate of Arthur Sackler in 1997, 2 years after Oxycontin was approved, and just as the pill was becoming a big seller. As a result, though they do not profit from present-day sales, Arthur's heirs appear to have benefited at least indirectly from Oxycontin. Of course they did. How do you, like I said, how are you going to be a maker of a drug and then claim you did not benefit on this drug that was being heavily used nationwide? And in fact, worldwide. I mean, even overseas, they use Oxycontin, y'all. It's just not just here in the US. Don't believe that for one moment. In 1997, to the estate of Arthur Sackler is disclosed in the combined audited financial statements of Purdue and its associated companies and subsidiaries. Um, those documents were filed along with hundreds of pages of exhibits in the U.S. District Court in Abingdon, Virginia, as part of a 2007 settlement in which a company associated with Purdue and three company executives pleaded guilty to charges that Oxycontin was illegally marketed. The company paid $600 million in penalties while admitting it falsely promoted Oxycontin as less addictive and less likely to be abused than other pain medications. We know that's a lie. Arthur's heirs include his widow and grandchildren. His children, including Elizabeth, do not inherit because they are not beneficiaries of a trust that was set up as part of a settlement of his estate, according to court records. Jillian receives an income from the trust. Elizabeth's two children are heirs and would receive bequest upon Jillian's death. A spokesman for Elizabeth Sackler declined to comment on the Purdue payment. Janet Wooten, a spokeswoman for Jillian Sackler, acknowledges that as a result of the protracted estate negotiations, payment to Arthur Sackler's estate were made over many years through the mid-90s. She adds, however, there is no evidence that the note was paid with Oxycontin products. All right, I'm just going to skip down a little. The three Sackler brothers are deceased. Arthur died in 1987, Mortimer in 2010, and Raymond, who was the last one that died in 2017. I actually did a video on him. The family of Mortimer and Raymond own 100% of privately held Purdue Pharma and form the majority of its board. Purdue declined to answer questions about the note and the 1997 payment. The company pointed to an existing statement that says, recent news coverage has wrongly characterized the relationship between Arthur and Purdue, and that neither he nor any of his descendants have ever had any involvement or financial stake in the success of Oxycontin. Well, the court documents say otherwise. Oxycontin is one of the biggest selling opioids in the United States, with revenue peaking at $3.1 billion in 2010. Purdue promoted Oxycontin by showering doctors with junkets and speaking engagements, according to an investigation by the U.S. General Accounting Office. Since 1999, 4 years after Oxycontin was approved, fatal overdoses related to the prescription opioids have skyrocketed fivefold to 17,087 deaths in 2016. Earlier data isn't available, nor is it known how many of the deaths are linked to Oxycontin. Well, how convenient is that? So the only data they got is 2016, not the previous years. Nice cover. Okay. The history of Purdue traces back to 1952 when the three brothers, all medical doctors, purchased Purdue, Frederick, and Manhattan. Arthur was both mentor and visionary. He was inducted into the Medical Advertising Hall of Fame. I didn't even know there was such a thing, which credited him with shaping pharmaceutical promotion as we know it today. He pioneered marketing directly to doctors and advertising pharmaceutical products in medical journals. Okay, going down some. Okay, soon after Arthur died in 1987, his estate sold one-third interest in Purdue Frederick to his brothers for 22.35 million, according to the 2003 book Painkiller by the New York Times journalist Barry Mayer. The amount of the note carried on Purdue books is the same as the purchase price, indicating that the payment was not made up front before paying off the note. Purdue paid interest on it at a rate as high as 14% per year, according to the financial documents. A portion of the note, 2.7 million, was paid to Arthur Sackler's estate in 1994. It incurred a prepayment penalty of $300,000, likely because it was paid before the note came due in 1998 and left a balance of 19.65 million according to Purdue records. All right. So I'm just going to go down a little. See if I can. Okay, I'll start right here. Berlin Rosen, a public relations firm in New York, represents Elizabeth Sackler, who has been openly critical of Purdue Pharma. She has said that none of her father's descendants benefited in any way from the sales of Oxycontin, while adding, I stand with all angry voices against abuse of power that harms or compromises any and all lives. Her charitable work, however, has received financial support from the side of the family that ran Purdue after her father's death and earned profits from the sales of Oxycontin. In 2011, Purdue Pharma donated $500,000 to a foundation named after Elizabeth's uncle, Mortimer. And the foundation gave the same amount to the Brooklyn Museum for the Sackler Family Courier. At the Elizabeth A. Sackler Center for Feminist Art. Elizabeth Sackler is a trustee of the museum and a benefactor. Just go down. In 2012, Beverly Sackler, the wife of the youngest Sackler brother, Raymond, this is the one that died in 2017, contributed $5,000 to Elizabeth Sackler's charitable foundation, which has provided substantial financial support to the Feminist Center at the museum. A museum spokesman and Elizabeth Sackler's spokeswoman declined to comment about the donations. Well, people are trying to cut donations off to this woman because they largely feel like this family played a huge role in the plague that's going on out here, which they did. I mean, you're the creator of the drug. You created this drug and said it was not addictive, but it was highly addictive. And I think they knew that from the start. You put opium in the shit. Okay? You put opium in it. And you should already know from Over 100 years ago, this country went through an opium addiction. So you're going to take this drug and put the same ingredients in it that cause an epidemic 100 years back, and you think it was not going to be a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, this coming from the high IQ people. I shouldn't have to say any more than that. It's coming from the ones that got high IQs. I tell you, a high IQ ain't worth a damn. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen, about this family. The creators of opioids are trying to escape blame for the plague and trying to deny the fact that they've profited off of this drug, which court documents are saying they did. Unbelievable. Please tell me what you think. Leave your comment and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Peace, family.